Hi, and welcome to another episode of Barnabas, Sons of Thunder. Have you ever felt taken advantage of? Like someone has used you the same way that they would use a hammer or a pencil or any other object? Like you weren't even human? No one likes being treated like an object instead of a person, and yet we still find ourselves being selfish in our own relationships. Today, your hosts, Rhett Ritchie and J.E. Bundy, are joined by special guest Josh Stevens to discuss why we do that. This is Barnabas.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Barnabas, Sons of Thunder, episode 2.
Number two.
You might notice we are in a little bit different setting today. We're out of the studio on location. We're actually in Colorado Springs.
That's in Colorado.
And we're at the National Conference on Youth Ministry. And so of youth ministry, either way, NCYM.
I guess because there's no money for that.
Yeah, but so anyways, it's a great week, and we thought that you also noticed a new face, I'm sure, and we just thought that since we're here, it'd be a great opportunity to bring in some of our co-workers, our friends, our mentors, and let you get to know them too. And so this is Josh Stevens. So Josh, why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Hey, my name is Josh Stevens. I'm the Dean of Students at Lubbock Christian University. Also direct LCU summer camps, work with Encounter, Camp Champion, Pine Springs, all of the above.
So I've got a question for you about your job.
Okay.
What's your least favorite part?
Surprisingly enough, my least favorite part is really doing the discipline.
I don't believe that.
Is that a big part of your job?
At times it can be.
I don't believe that. I think he enjoys it.
I don't. I mean, to be honest, I want to be liked. I want people to like me.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily pick the right job for someone that wants to be liked, but I do love what I do.
As someone who was once disciplined by Josh,
It's funny that you said once.
it seems as if he does, in fact, enjoy his job.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a little bit more enjoyment than others, but
Well, we're glad you're here. Thanks for taking some time and
Thanks
sitting
for
down
asking.
with us. So, so Rhett was in school when with Josh as the dean of students. Me and Josh actually went to school together, and we're students together, and so we go way back. And so it's nice to have our friends join us. So we're really glad you're here.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So real quick, why don't? Because we could ask you questions. Why don't you hit the high spots and tell us about yourself outside of your job? Kind of what your hobbies, your interests, family, all those kind of things.
I was raised in Lubbock, and I grew up there. Like you said, I went to LCU, but I don't count my first university because they didn't count it when I transferred to LCU. So it is what it is.
Yeah, because you have to have above a 1.0 to transfer, right?
I had a 0.75. But I've been married it will be 20 years in May. I know.
That's almost as long as I've been alive.
See? Okay. On May 8th will be 20 years that Angie and I have been married.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We have 3 kids. We have a son, Taylor, who's 13, a daughter, Allie, who's 12, and then a daughter, Caroline, who will turn 11 on March 8th. So,
I didn't realize they were all just 1 year apart.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Not great planning, but my family's in Lubbock, Angie's family's in Lubbock, and so we do a lot of stuff with family.
Yeah.
We're involved in church. For hobbies, I like to play golf, hunt.
Are you good at those things?
I don't know. Good is an operative word. Like I may not be better than J.E., but I know I'm better than you, or something like that.
So without prompting him, he knows the routine of this whole show is to make fun of me.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's part of life.
That's right.
That's what we do. Should have been there last night.
no, you shouldn't have been. I sat at the table while eating a burger and cried.
Yeah.
So
You'll have to tune into Barnabas after hours for all that conversation. So speaking of kind of making fun of, and that kind of leads into what we're wanting to talk about today. Is the idea that sometimes there are people that end up not just being the butt of a joke, but also end up being kind of being viewed as less than people.
We take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Because we kind of feel as a higher rank than them almost.
Yeah.
I don't know why the people we pick to do that. Like today at lunch, I was sitting there and on my receipt it had 2 drinks instead of 1.
Yeah.
taken advantage of.
You think so?
No, I don't.
That might be a little bit of victim mentality, I think, there.
No. I just don't know why everyone's out to get me.
Yeah, but there are people like that though, you know,
Yes.
and so I mean,
Yes.
you're kind of joking, but there are times where people have, and I don't know if it's always the same people but we end up, instead of viewing people as individuals and treating them with the respect and dignity that they deserve, only look at a person and only give value to a person as far as they can benefit us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a natural thing that all of us fall victim to and perpetrate onto other people
I
from
agree.
time to time.
I agree.
So and it's a sad thing, and especially whenever you realize it.
Yes.
Especially when. So for me, I can remember times in my life where I have come to the realization that I have treated people like that, and as I'm in the middle of doing it, I realize that I'm doing that to someone. I'm treating them like an object.
Yeah.
I'm taking advantage
Yeah.
of that person, and it's not a good feeling. And so, one time, whenever I was I was working at Oak Express, which is a furniture store. I think I've talked about it before on this on Barnabas, and so, but I was working in management, and one of the big pushes that we had to do was we had to push financing. We had to try to get people, instead of paying cash for their merchandise, we would offer financing options like same as cash, 3 years, no interest and things like that. And we would try to get them to finance all of their purchases, because the reality is we would make more money on the financing of the purchase than we would on the purchase itself. And so if we could get people to put their purchase on a Furniture Row credit card, then we could make more money off of the interest of those things than we would off of selling the furniture itself. And so that was a big push. And I remember there were times where we had families that would come in that, and we don't see their credit score, but we know by how much they got approved or what version of our financing, if they had good credit or poor credit. And we had people that would come in with obviously poor credit and then would be approved for like $10,000. And then, so one story in particular, I had this lady came in and she needed a bed for her son. And so her and her son were looking in this, and she said, we can't afford much, we just need the least expensive bed. And so we actually went to the scratch and dent area, and I was trying to help her find an inexpensive bed. We found one, it was like $50 for this bed. And so she said, okay, I can afford that. And so she goes, well, tell me about the financing. And so I told her about the financing. She applied for it. It got approved for over $10,000. She said, I have the $10,000 I can spend. And I said, yeah. And she said, okay. And so she went and looked around, and she spent $10,000. Went $10,000 in debt when she was coming in looking for the least expensive bed. And I remember thinking, as she was doing it, like, don't do this. Like, this is not a good decision for you. You shouldn't do this. But I could not do that. I could not say that to her and keep my job. And so I remember in that moment just thinking, like, I don't feel good about the kind of person that I am. And so that was one of the factors that led to me eventually deciding to look for other employment and actually go into ministry, because I didn't like how I felt putting people in a position like that just so that I could make some money, letting this family go deeper into debt. So, and encouraging them to do that.
Well, and that's such a hard thing, because I mean, you had to do that. There wasn't any other option, because at the end of the day, you're trying to support your family.
Yeah.
But I think so many other times, this is outside of a working, living context. This is inside of relationships that advantages can be taken of, or that we can objectify to people. So, do you have any stories similar?
Yeah, and actually, I think I'm going to go a different route than I had planned. And you will remember this, actually. As I started hearing you talking, I thought about a time when I know I definitely took advantage of my status or position that I was in.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I was the president of an organization, but I was also serving as the what we call pledge master. And he remembers because he was there. He was a pledge.
He was my pledge master.
That's right. Sorry. But I can think of one time, and I said and I did some things that I'm not proud of today that I don't know necessarily need to be on a podcast. But one thing in particular is I just started a job with our university's public safety office.
Yeah.
So I was a security guard, and the first 2 nights of Pledge Week, I had to stay up. Like I worked the 11 p.m. shift to 7 a.m. shift.
It was rough.
Yeah, it was rough. And so I did it the first night was fine, and I did everything. Well, the second night, or I was late to something. So I found 2 guys, and I said, tomorrow morning you're calling to make sure I get up, to make sure I wake up and I'm not late, because back then we put them through workouts and those kind of things. So that morning they called me, I said hello, I said thanks, and I hung up the phone and I went back to sleep. And I didn't get up and go to the workout. I mean, I was the president, I was the pledge master, I'm the person in charge of all these things. I didn't show up. And so that afternoon, and the new members were being like hammered, like, man, you guys are so bad. Your own president, pledge master, doesn't want to come to this thing. And so that afternoon, when I was around everybody, I said, who was supposed to call me this morning? And 2 guys raised their hand, and I said, why didn't you call me? I knew they had called me, but I knew they could not admit to having called me, because then, because I was in that position of power, which is really so dumb and ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, I'm sorry, and so I'm yelling at them and made them do more things, made the whole group, you included, to do more things to work out. And I just felt, in the moment, I was doing it because I could.
Yeah.
Because
and it was kind of funny.
My buddies thought this is hilarious that he's doing it to them.
Yeah.
But my later on in life, as I grew up and matured, for many years carried a lot of regret for things I said and did and the way I acted
During that week?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I think is interesting about that too is, like, there's still guys that I went through pledging with under you that still hold a grudge, right?
Yes.
And so I think, it's interesting that, because we can look at that, and I'm sure they can too, look back and say, well, that was silly, that's just for this club thing, and it shouldn't matter. But even in small circumstances like that, the way that we treat people can carry over for years. Like, it can affect relationships forever.
Let me tell you the story real quick. So this year I was leaving a summer camp that we had done in the mountains of eastern New Mexico, Pine Springs. And I see someone pick up their student, their kid, I don't know who that person is. Well, I go to a restaurant in Cloudcroft, and I see that guy there, and that guy was one of the Pledge Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a guy that I made fun of the way he spoke one time. So, like, y'all were doing workouts because I didn't let you address Kappa's Pledge Master, and the way he said something, I made fun of that.
Yeah.
And that was like 20 years from this month. Mm-hmm. And so I've been holding on to that for a long time. And so I talked to him, said hi or whatever, and I went and sat back down. And as he was paying to get out, I got up and I really felt like this is a Holy Spirit moment. Like, so I got up and I went over to him and I said, hey man, I need to tell you something. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I said, I don't know if you remember this, but, and I was like, I was just a punk kid that cared more about what people thought than really about feelings.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell you I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and I'm not that guy anymore. And I don't know if that meant anything to him, but for me to go back to my table with my wife and my kids and explain what had just happened, was a powerful moment.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of me being able to say, okay, it's forgiveness is on him. I've asked for it, but it was kind of a surreal experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So here's my question to both of you then. Because as we kind of look at this, but both stories were completely different, but the same kind of taking advantage of happened. I think there's a preconceived notion of why we take advantage of people, why we objectify people. But I want to broaden that. Or what are some other ways you think we take advantage of people that people aren't realizing, or that we're not realizing we're taking advantage of people? Because I think consistently we're going through doing these things. Because you even have me thinking, well, during your story, I thought about my relationship with my secretaries, and it's a very different way of this is their job they're supposed to do, but I take that for granted.
Yeah.
You know, I expect them to go do it, and I don't appreciate them. I don't nearly give them enough credit. And that, when I look at that, I objectify them
Yeah.
as an ends to a means, as these people hold this role to go do this thing. I think this happens in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
But and this is the first part of the question. And as we wrap back around, what can we do to be more self-conscious about this? And so start there, then we'll build back to self-conscious.
Well, I think that I think the core of that question, the essence of that, is that we get so wrapped up in our own selves, and we are really only think about what I need to get done, what I'm wanting, what's best for me. And if other people come into my story and help me, then that's great, and then they can leave. But we're really only focused on our own narrative. Like I'm telling my story, and this, and you are crossing my path for a second, but then you're going to go out. And so I think that it's just a self-centeredness that we all have. You know, we tend towards inward thinking, where we just think, what do I need? What do I want? What's my objective? And if you can help me attain that, then that's great. Come with me. And then as soon as you're not able to, then that's fine. You go your own way, but I'm still going this way. And so I think it's just a matter of getting outside of our head and not only thinking about ourselves, but really trying to think about other people as people. Like they're telling their own story. You know, all of us have our own story that we're going through, and just being able to be conscious and realize that person is a human being. It's not just an extra in a movie, but that's a person that has value.
You're right, because I mean, how often do we genuinely think about the story that's happening in somebody else's life? Because we care about the story that's happening to those close to us, but that realization of they're on that same path, trying to do the same thing, and we could be limiting their path.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree with you, Jay. I think we have to embrace this idea that you're Jay and you're Brett, just like I'm Josh and you're you. There's inherent value in you as an individual, okay? And I'm 100% with you that a lot of times we treat others as extras in our story. And we probably don't recognize it. Maybe in this moment we're the extra in their story.
Yeah.
We don't embrace that idea, or we don't put this down and say, you know, we can be talking and I can be on this because of a missed phone call or a text, and be so consumed with this that I forget that I've been given the opportunity to be a part of this moment right now.
Yeah.
And so to open myself up to recognizing that the world does not revolve around me, like you said, to pour value into someone. And we receive value in different ways. Sometimes it's through a raise with an employee. Sometimes it's through gifts. Sometimes it's just by saying, like, man, I appreciate it. It's words of affirmation, or it's like it's saying, well, guess what? Let me tell you how valuable you are.
well, you know what you're going through right now? The list of the 5 love languages. You start describing those, and it's how can we show love to somebody else, as opposed to how can we show love to ourselves. I think that's the very core of both of those put together. Is I think it comes down to focus. Is how can I focus enough on what's going on around me without being so focused on myself? Because even with my phone, that's myself. That's an extension of myself.
Yeah, that's retreating.
Well, other people may need to get a hold of me. Yes, but this is my phone. I choose how to respond and when to respond.
Yeah.
It's the same level of, I don't know, we're talking about love, but who do we love? Ourselves, or are we more conscious about others, love for others?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think when you're driven by loving others, then you are going to be more intentional about not taking advantage of either those relationships or the opportunities or even time that you have with them.
Yeah.
Because you see the inherent value in that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's we're wrapping this back around. So I want to talk all about the subject because we talk a lot of purposely taking advantage of people. But on the other hand, there are lots of people, including, I think everybody gets taken advantage of some point, but I think there are people who are more prone to it just based off of personality type. So what advice would you have to give to somebody who deals with that, who you feel who is quite frankly, kind of a pushover.
Yep.
And not to be in a mean way, but that they care enough about other people that they're going to push over what they want to go help somebody else
Yep.
and push their stuff aside.
Well, I think about that with my own kids, and I think that especially in relationship between kids and adults, not necessarily their parents, but other adults in their lives, they feel like they are going to take a subservient role, and most of the time that's good to be respectful of your elders and to let the adults lead and for children to follow and to learn, but I worry about that with my oldest son, Will, that sometimes I think he's not assertive enough in speaking his own mind and speaking his own opinion. And so what I tell him is you need to let people know what you think, and there's nothing wrong with having an opinion and having desires and having your own having your own
Being your own you.
being your own person, yes. And so I think that just getting people to realize that it's okay for me to speak my mind into a situation and say, still being respectful of everyone else, and not trying to dominate anyone, but saying, I would appreciate if we could do it this way, or I appreciate if we could consider this. And so I think that sometimes we're afraid to speak our minds in that way because we're afraid we're going to rock the boat, or we're going to offend someone, or we're going to seem bossy or pushy.
We're afraid we're wrong. Sometimes we don't have faith enough in ourselves that we're afraid we're wrong. So I'll just trust somebody else.
Yeah. So
Well, I think we also have to recognize that because we live in a very me-focused world, that because I have an opinion and there's value in my opinion, we have to be reminded that it is just my opinion.
Yes.
It doesn't make it better or more important than someone else's. And as a daddy, you do have those times where you feel the pressure of I'm raising kids and I want my kids to be assertive and to be strong and to be independent. And I was dealing with a kid with my son Taylor at one time. This is a number of years ago, and I told him, I said, if this kid does this to you, then this is how you need to respond, because you don't need to be a pushover. You don't need to be that guy that takes it. And when your kid says, but that's not what I learned at church.
Yeah.
That's when you as a daddy go, out of the mouths of babes, man. I'm learning something from my little one that I wanted them to learn. That I got to be reminded because I understand the idea of we don't want to be a pushover, but what if that's the role we're supposed to be in that moment?
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't, because we look at things so narrow-minded and through our own lens that we don't see the big picture.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's definitely difficult waters to navigate.
And as we look to wrap up, we always like to end with something practical. And you, at the very last second, swoop in and took my practicalness. Because the whole time I was sitting here thinking, I feel like a lot of my life, I've lended myself to be walked on. I've lended myself to kind of be underneath. And then I'm sure that's not true to the fullest extent, but I feel that way. And every time I think about talking to people now and talking about, stand up for yourself, empower yourself, there's a time to do that, and there's a place to do that. But I think the true answer to all this on both sides of this objectification of people is humility.
Oh yeah.
I think humility on this person is using me. Well, all right, this may be the place I'm supposed to hold right now. And I'm using this person, I should humble myself. They're not there for me to do that with. They're not for me. I mean, even in dating relationships, even in relationships like that with manipulation. Manipulation, even with those sorts of things. Objectification of people comes sexually, comes financially, comes emotionally. Man, comes, and emotion spread apart is, well, it empowers me. Well, it gives me a purpose. Well, it makes me feel strong. That's not what that other person's meant to do.
Yeah.
They're meant to come in communion with you, and they're meant to build something stronger together.
Yeah.
And so that's my practicalness to end.
Yeah.
So where are we going?
Well, I think
Did I
that's
steal
good.
it all?
No, I think that's good. I think walking with humility and trying to view other people as equals, if not better than yourself, and really trying to humble yourself and walk your life that way, I think goes a long ways to making sure that you're not viewing someone as a stepping stone to get you where you want to go, or to get to get whatever you can out of that person, but to just say, what does this person need, and how can I be a benefit to them while they're also being a benefit to me? And I think that's community, is when we're all working together, giving our strength to each other, and kind of covering each other's weaknesses in that way.
A very wise man once said, "The first shall be last."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Josh, you have anything you'd like to end us with?
I just think for whoever's watching this is recognizing that you are unique and you are valuable and that you are important. And I know in a lot of life circumstances we may not feel those things, but to know that we are loved and we are divinely created, and so there's significance in us, whether it's how we're engaging our community, or whether it's how we're processing and dealing with the own thoughts and feelings that we have. My hope is that each person feels a part of something greater, a part of something bigger than themselves, more important than just their own little world. And so I hope you recognize how important and valuable you are.
So as we end, we always want you to know there's always a tomorrow, and you're made just the way you are meant to be made. This has been Barnabas, episode number 2. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks to our guest, Josh. Thanks for spending some time
Let,
with
let
us.
us know what you think in the comments. We love to interact with you and just get to know your stories as well.
Yep.
It's been episode number 2. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Barnabas, Sons of Thunder. We really hope that you found this episode entertaining and encouraging. We really do appreciate all of you who decided to tune in and spend a few minutes with us. If you'd like more, you can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify.